cheese company. Yeah, so cheese was like central to their, I'll call it their DNA, and he wanted to launch cheese in Russia because big market, central to the company. We need to launch cheese in Russia, and we need to do it, and we need to do it fast, and we need someone to lead a project. Wonder who that might be. Someone with a lot of project management experience?
No.
Someone with a lot of cheese experience? I missed the fact that I spent about 5 years in the UK working on cheese. And someone with a bit of experience in this part of the world. Okay? I got nominated. I just got told I was going to be doing this. So, it's again a bit about project management. So I got sent to Russia. Not to Siberia, to Moscow, yeah? Again formed a project team. This time it was a project team with local people in the business unit in Russia, with our advertising agency, with the factory people who were in Belgium, with our R&D people who were in Munich. So people from lots of different places together in this team. And as a team, we created a real kind of can-do spirit and attitude, because when the boss of the whole company wants to make this happen, it tends to create a certain energy and spirit. Within 6 months, we defined the brand. We decided on what was the brand we needed to launch. We sorted the pack, the product, the proposition, so what we were going to say to consumers about it. We'd sorted the pricing, we'd sorted the advertising, the support. We'd worked out what we call the route to market, how to sell it in the store. This was a chilled product, so not like chocolate sold at the regular temperature, into the chiller or fridge or whatever you call it here. Yeah? So a completely different supply chain system. At this time, the product wasn't coming from America, but it was coming from Belgium. Having to go through customs borders through into Russia by truck. And we also put together a 10-year business proposition that included the whole investment in building a factory in Russia to produce this once we got to sufficient scale. So you can imagine a huge amount of effort and work to get that far. We launched, and a couple of months after we launched, we got the President's Award. Not the President of Russia, but the President of the company. All feeling pretty good. That was the end of, I think, 2004. And this is what it looked like. One of the packs looked like. And the early signs were that it was going to be pretty successful. This did taste good. It was a pretty good tasting product. But sales then slowed down. And they slowed down for 3 reasons. Consumers tried the product, but they didn't repeat. They tried it, but they didn't repeat. But the taste was good. The availability, the number of shops that the product was sold in, started to flatten. It didn't grow as much as we expected. And we had great advertising, great packaging, so we thought, but it didn't sell, or didn't sell as much as we expected. And here, I think, 3 key learnings. The first was one that taught me a lesson about research and what the consumer says they'll do versus what they actually do. So when we researched this, the consumers loved it. They loved the advertising, they loved the product, they loved the packaging. But there was a competitor already in the market that they'd been buying for years. So they said, yeah, we'll try it and then we'll be buying it. What they did is they tried it, but they went back to their regular, regular brand. You know? So whilst we were good, we weren't good enough to switch them to our brand on a regular basis. You know? We were as good as the competition, maybe a little bit better in taste, but not so much better in taste that people actually wanted to move from the brand that they kind of grown up with for many years. You know? And it was the same with the retailers. Yeah, they liked us, but they didn't like us enough to give us the space that we needed. And then it taught a lesson, again, this was another of the lessons of about arrogance. Yeah? Just because we're one of the biggest companies, or we're one of the biggest companies of cheese in the world, and just because we're a big multinational, doesn't necessarily mean that you can win locally. Yeah? So it taught a little lesson, again, about not being too arrogant about what you can achieve in a market. So that was the fourth story. So let me just try and, as we say, connect the dots. And I'd connect them by saying that in my experience, there are 5 things that I think are really important to be successful in business. I call them the 5 Ps. And the first P is about performance, because businesses are there to grow and be successful. So if you don't perform, if you don't deliver the results, then whoever's owning the companies won't invest in the companies. Whether it's if it's a public company, the people on the stock exchange, or if it's a private company, the private owners. So without performance, there's no success in business, and that's about sustained performance, sustained growth. Yeah. So the businesses that you see succeeding are those that are able to sustain a performance, not just for 1 year, but year after year after year after year. The second would be about priorities. In business, you have almost limitless opportunities and challenges. The skill is in making sure you're clear on what your strategy is and where your priorities need to be focused, because you can't do everything. So having the right priorities, having the focus on those priorities, is the second of the 5 Ps. The third is about P for perspective. You know what perspective is? Seeing things from different angles, whether it be the different people in a company working in different functions and taking their different perspectives, or looking at some data from a number of different angles. It's important in business to have a range of perspectives rather than just one view. And to just illustrate the point, I'll show you my favourite ad of all time. I bet none of you have seen this one before.
An event seen from one point of view gives one impression. Seen from another point of view, it gives quite a different impression. But it's only when you get the whole picture you can fully understand what's going on.
That's for a British newspaper. I'm not convinced that the product actually delivers against the promise, but I bet when you were seeing that ad, the first scene you were thinking one thing that was going to happen, the second scene another thing, and then it was only when you see from the more complete angle that you get the full picture. And so often that's true in business, being able to see things from a number of different angles, not just, shall I say, from the marketing perspective, but from the sales perspective, or the supply chain perspective, or the view that we might have as I'll call it a local business here, to what people in our regional office might have. So it's that ability to be able to pull together different people's perspective to give you the full picture. The fourth is about passion. And well, to illustrate this, I would quote a couple of people, because they probably know a little bit more about passion than I do. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. That was a lady called Harriet Tubman writing in the American Civil War. One person with passion is better than 40 people merely interested. It was E.M. Foster, was a 19th century British novelist. And then, I'd never heard of this guy, maybe some of you have heard of him, a guy called Anthony D'Angelo. He's a US educationalist. Develop a passion for learning. If you do, you will never cease to grow. So passion in business makes such a difference. I think the E.M. Foster's comment of one person with passion is worth more than 40 just interested is so true. If you have people with passion behind doing a particular thing, it makes a huge difference in business. And the last, but actually, in my view, the first, is about people. If you don't, in a business, have the ability to attract, attract, develop and retain talent, you don't have a business. The kind of competition for talent is probably no more intense than it is now, and that ability to attract and develop talent is key to any business. So for me, people is actually not the last of the P's, it's the first of the P's, it's the most important. So those are the 5 P's that I would recommend to you as the 5 most important things in terms of business success. But I'd probably add a 6th. And it's what I call the power of humility. Some of the people in the office have probably heard me say it a few times. It's that ability to recognize your own failures and mistakes, and to learn from them, to front up to those failures and mistakes, and I say to learn from them. Because if you don't learn, you don't grow and you don't get better. So for me, the 6th P, if there was one, would be the power of humility. So, that was all I was going to talk about. And now I would welcome, and I might divert to some of my colleagues with some of them, to take any questions that you want to have in this kind of group session. And then I'm sure we'll be going later into small groups with questions and riddles.
Yeah. How do you qualify luck as a factor of success?
You make your own luck. Sure, there is. That was a flippant answer. You do make your own luck, but people talk about is the risk in business, and I'd say no. It's about managing uncertainty. So yes, you can be, let's say, in a career, you can be in the right place at the right time. So luck does play a part. But it's, I would say it's not a major factor in the long run.
Okay.
Yeah, please do.
In your opinion, are brands eternal?
Sorry?
Are brands eternal?
Brands eternal.
What do you think about brand eternity?
Wow. Eternity is a very long time. I believe that truly the best and world-class brands, I wouldn't quite go as far as saying will last for eternity, but will last for a long time. You look at brands like Coke, like Milka. Milka's 11 or 12 years old. So brands that are invested in, that are built, that stay connected to consumers and customers, whether they're as far as eternal, because that seems to me like a very, very long time, then yes they are. There are brands like that.
And
Sorry?
Sorry, how about the secret ingredients of some of your... do you think that this contributes to the eternity of your brand?
Secret ingredients. Well, you could say alpine milk is a secret ingredient, but of course we tell people about it with milk. I think it's very rare that a brand has got a secret ingredient that will last forever. I mean, take in the pharmaceutical industry. So where a company might have a patent on a particular technology, but those patents run out after a period of time. And then it's much more about what the companies have done in terms of building the brand, and building the brand in a way that even when that secret ingredient or technology has gone away, the brand still continues.
So are you satisfied with the position of your brands in the global market and yield the floor to me?
No, I think healthily dissatisfied. I mean, if you're number one and you kind of sit back and say, oh, we're number one, then we'll soon become number two. And to your first question about our brands eternally, if you don't keep moving forward with your brands and making them relevant to consumers, constantly finding a way to give more value to the consumers, that's not necessarily kind of more for less money, but just more value to them, then you will, through time, become less relevant and go down.
Thank you.
Okay. These, by the way, are just my opinions. They're not necessarily company philosophy or whatever.
How many mistakes have you made after this point?
How many have I made after those four? When was the last one? 2004. Well, I probably make a couple a day, so what's that? 700, let's say 1,000 a year, so probably 5,000, 6,000, how many years have we done? 8,000 since then. And I've made a few more good ones since then, but that would have to be another conversation.
What would be the biggest money loss or money waste that you had?
The cheese one that I put up there was a pretty good one, because when you invest, we thankfully didn't build a plant, but we did a lot more. So that was probably running into the millions of loss, millions of dollars. I mean, the first one was only 400,000. That's small, probably by comparison. But you could also look at, there's probably, you learn afterwards the mistakes that you've made that have cost, but you never look at those where you maybe not made a decision and therefore missed an opportunity that could have been, I don't know, a 20 million opportunity. You didn't make that decision and you've missed 20 million. So I don't know the scale of some of those that I've missed as opportunities.
And just to follow up, if I can, when you make $1 million or you multi-million-dollar mistake, is there always somebody who gets fired at the end?
Not necessarily. It's we all make mistakes. It's that ability to learn from them. If I made the same mistake twice, I think probably be close to getting fired. So I've not often come across people who got fired for mistakes unless they have broken the law. They've acted unethically. I mean, those things, fine, you're out the door, gone. Yeah. But if it's about business decisions where it's an error of judgment, should we say, then it's about that ability to learn from it and move forward. And if you can move forward from it, because I've made plenty of mistakes and I'm not got fined yet.
You mentioned you worked in Russia, UK, Turkey, Serbia. Did you have to change your management style in each country, and then did these changes affect your efficiency?
The simple answer to the question is yes. I mean, one of the things I enjoy a lot, and actually it was one of the questions you asked me at interview. It's one of the things that got you the job, by the way. The person asked me the question, he said, so you've been, and I'll come back to answer the question, he said, why have you been working in that company for 20 years, or whatever it was by then? Which, by the way, was a very thoughtful question. And my answer was simple, there's some great people in the company. And a company gives me the opportunity to travel across different countries and learn from the kind of cultures and experiences in those different countries, and I'm getting paid for it. My time I've been in Pakistan, Ghana, South Africa, into people's homes as well as the markets I've seen there, and I got paid for it. And you never stop learning about different cultures, and therefore how you sometimes need to adapt, and sometimes how you need to adapt your style. So, for example, if I won't talk about Serbia, I'll contrast Turkey and Russia. Yeah? Russia's maybe a bit like they're fairly direct, straight to the point. Yeah? If you're fairly direct and straight to the point in Turkey, you're probably not going to get very far. Yeah? Pride is very important. They feel that you can't kind of show people up. You need to be a little bit more subtle in how to do things and let them own things. So the contrast between Turkey and Russia was definitely quite big, and certainly different from the UK. The UK, where certainly in my time there, very diplomatic, do not tell it as it is as often as we should do, trying to bring everyone together. So very different. And then you need to kind of work with how people aren't your management style, but in a way that can work with the people and their culture.
Are there any companies you're looking up to?
Looking up to? Yeah, I think a lot of companies. I think one of the things that I talked about arrogance early on. You can always learn from your competitors. In fact, some of the best ideas come from your competitors, and it's about how to steal the idea. Well, not just competitors, actually, other companies in the industry. So I could look at some companies, and I think their in-store execution is better than ours. Yeah, I can look at other companies and see. I mean, in this market, I'd say that Wrigley and Marlboro are pretty good in terms of in-store execution. Yeah, I think there are other companies you look at and you can admire the way in which they kind of go about identifying new business ideas. I think Unilever a few years back were very smart, particularly in some of the developing markets and some of the kind of new product approaches that they took. So there's normally something you can admire and appreciate in many companies, because they wouldn't be where they were today if they're not full of smart people doing some smart things.
Is it turned out better for choosing Belgrade instead of Zagreb for your representative center in Belgrade?
No, we have 3 legal entities in this business unit: Belgrade, Zagreb, and to be politically correct here, and Ljubljana. Yeah? And some people talk about Belgrade as our head office. It's not. It's our main hub. It's our main office as a business unit. And we have a number of people in Zagreb and a number of people in Ljubljana. The reason we were previously as a business unit, our main base was in Vienna. So the choice that was right was actually coming down into the market that we're operating in. Yeah? And actually we're a fairly virtual business unit across those 3 countries in terms of offices. Is that a nice diplomatic answer? Is there any Croatian, Slovenians or anyone else from that?
Maybe it's better, to start looking in Vienna and cover Ljubljana, and in Budapest and cover Croatia and Serbia. Yes, believe me.
Yeah. Actually, when we looked at it, you look at companies that work in this part of the world, there's no standard model for how they operate. Some have got a head office, region office in Bucharest, some in Budapest, some in Zagreb. I think we're one of the few that's got a base, certainly for the whole area here. So there's no, in my experience, there's no right or wrong model. We chose to come here as our main hub.
What are obstacles that you face doing the business in Serbia? The problem that you face, particularly in Serbia?
I'd say one of the challenges we definitely face is, let's call it playing on a level. We say playing on a level playing field. Yeah. So if I take the example of Milka, so we import the product, we pay our customers in the duties, we sell to our distributor, who then sells to the retailers, the product is properly labelled, sold to the consumer. Some other people choose to bring the product across the border, don't pay the taxes, don't label the products properly so that consumers are properly informed about the product, don't store the product in the correct temperature conditions so it often can get to the consumer in a not best quality, so it's an uneven playing field and they've not paid their taxes. That I think is, in this market, probably one of the biggest challenges. And then you've got the regular things. I wouldn't call it about corruption, I'll call it about bureaucracy.
But I read in newspapers that some Milka products are sold like that. It's not your products. From some others.
And
cannot be controlled?
we are working with authorities to try and control it, because product that's sold in the country should be properly labelled, should have been properly transported, and should have had the appropriate taxes paid to the kind of state bodies. So we on our own can't control it because we can't police the border, but we work with customs authorities, market inspectors, all those kind of people to try and make sure that we're, I'll say, playing on a level playing field. But I think that's probably the biggest challenge I'd say we face in the market at the moment. And then the other one would be the economy isn't in the best of shape, like a number of economies, with high levels of unemployment, a real challenge on people's spending power. That I'd say is actually probably the biggest challenge, but we're not alone in facing that. As I said a while back, that probably our biggest competitor is not a competitor, it's the economy. And I really think that is the case. Yeah.
Can you tell me what do you think that your biggest opportunities are on this market, and why the number of your brands is so small on this market?
I can't talk about specific opportunities because otherwise I'd have to shoot you. Seriously, I can't talk and won't talk about what the future opportunities are. But I'd say that on the assumption that the spending power comes back, as a country, our business has got some tremendous opportunities for growth. We've had a pretty challenging year, but we're still above water as opposed to below water like some other countries. And to your second question about how come we've only got like 7 brands, or in Serbia it's less than that. I go back to the point I made about priorities, because we could easily, and there's a number of people in our business who would like to launch kind of even more brands, but then you don't have sufficient resources to be able to fund all of them. So it's talked to the PO about priorities in having a clear focus so we can just keep investing on the brands that we have got in the market. So I've at least answered one of the 2 questions. There's someone else.
How about this make friends with someone for your competitors? And how does it prepare this budget?
Good question. We have, I'll call it certain rules or procedures in what you can and can't do with people and competitors. There's a lot when you talk about competition law where you cannot talk to people who work as competitors about what you're doing. I mean, that's an out-the-door kind of concept. However, being personal friends with someone, provided you're not discussing business topics, is fine. So, can be friends. I can be friends with someone from Nestle or from Sharp or whatever. I'm not, but I won't talk about business. But in fact, if they start talking about business, I'll leave the room.
Can you buy their products?
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation. I can, but I won't. You know, one of the stories, it's not only told, but I know it from experience. People, actually, we were talking about it the other day. People who work at Coke are paranoid about Pepsi. You know what paranoid means? Yeah? That they won't even go to a restaurant that stocks Pepsi. They're not allowed to try Pepsi. Yeah? I think that's completely wrong, because if you don't try your competition and understand what they're like, you don't really understand, you know, kind of how good they are. And I think some of our competitors have got some great products. So it's important that, you know, you try them and you kind of understand what they're doing, what they're, how they're improving their products and wares. You asked that question.
How do you motivate your employees?
How do I motivate my employees? Go on, I'll have a rest and ask 3 employees to answer that one. But maybe they'll say I don't. Do you want to? Do you want me to answer?
I'll answer the first part. Actually, when I had the first interview with Phil, actually I asked one question, which is what is the culture of Kraft? And I think, and I said to Phil, I mean, whatever they would propose later on, I made the decision in 2 minutes, in 2 seconds after that. And these are basically the culture of Kraft are 7 values. And then all 3 of us may say which they are actually, which is, as you mentioned here, tell it like it is, discuss, decide, deliver, act like an owner on everything you do, keep it simple, lead from the head and the heart, have 2, inspire trust, yes, I said that, one more.
Yeah, one more.
Be open and
very good.
Be open and inclusive. Yes, these are the 7 values, and the whole everything that we do actually is captured in those 7. So which one? Passion.
Head in the
heart is a passion. Yeah, and this is the most important one.
And not just talking about it, but
living it every day. Yes.
And then the other thing we do in terms of, I'll say, motivation, actually a number of things. One, we do a lot of what we call employee engagement, and how to engage employees to what we're doing, because it's very clear that where you have engaged employees, that you have a strong business performance, so there's a very proven connection there. And there's a lot of learning about what you need to do to drive and improve employee engagement. And then I won't quite call it motivation, but it's also about making sure you've got the right compensation and benefit packages. You can talk all the nice things, but unless you've got a competitive kind of remuneration and reward system, then you're not going to motivate people. Yeah, I mean, you can help people learn and grow, you can help praise and recognize them, you can help them develop, you can help listen to their opinions, but if you pay them nothing, there's eventually going to come a point where they're not that motivated, so you need to get that part on. The lady first.
how does the control look like in a company?
How does
The control.
the control?
Activity.
I'd say the control looks pretty good, because one of the things that I'm a big believer in, and the ladies here can tell me if I'm lying or not, is I believe in what I call recommendation upwards. And that then says, and I'll talk, maybe there's another angle you're saying, control. So if you're talking about control in decision making, rather than internal control, then you know, I think business runs much better when it's I call it recommendation upwards. The people who know best what should be done. So if I take Vesna on a brand, should be best. And if she's recommending that, she'll then get questions back and maybe some challenge on various things that will help her learn and grow and maybe get it optimized, or help the person who's needing to approve it to actually see that there's a better way of doing something. So I think in decision making we don't really have control. We have certain, I'll call it approval levels, but it's very much based upon the person who's closest to the business recommending what they want to do and giving them the framework to operate in that.
How do you know which product you publish on which marketplace? For example, why isn't there Oreo in Serbia?
Yes.
We could arrange for some Oreo to get to Serbia. In fact, we could probably buy some on the open markets that's come in without paying taxes and without proper labelling if you're really keen to it. No, seriously, when we're looking at which brands to launch or be present in particular markets, it's about understanding, have we got a big enough consumer opportunity such that what we choose to invest behind that brand, we can get a return on our investment. You know? One might not get it straight away, but you look at how quickly you may get a payback on the investment. So at the moment, we've taken a view that we can't get a good enough return on our investment to launch, let's say, Oreo in Serbia. Maybe relative to some other things that we might choose to do. So again, back to priority, to say actually we can get a better return with this than that, and therefore we prioritise it. Because there's only so much either money or people resource that any business has got. Sorry? Fewer, bigger, better. Yeah. Yes.
I'm studying IT, so
sorry?
I'm studying IT,
yeah.
So I have a question about how much IT is present in your business? How much
I'll say it's pretty present. We're on a system at the moment that will be moving to SAP next April. We have all the regular kind of, I guess let's call it office stuff, so Microsoft Office and all those kind of things. We have, call it internet systems of communication, yeah, we have those. We don't have any manufacturing assets within our business unit, but then that would add a whole extra dimension in terms of IS. But we're not probably as IS-centric as some companies.
Are there any other questions, any comments you would like to make? Anything? If not, we can continue this discussion in the bar, and I'd like to thank once again for this inspiring lectures.
Thank you.